Hello guys, how are you?
I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you can guesswork. Please guys participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams.
Part 1.
You will hear a man called Matt inquiring about renting a holiday cottage. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5.
Hello?
Oh, hello. I'm interested in renting one of your holiday cottages. I'm afraid I don't know your name.
I'm Alison. My husband Jonathan and I are the joint owners.
Good. My name's Matt Harmon.
How can I help you, Matt?
Some friends of ours have recommended your cottages to us. They stayed in one of them last summer, and my wife and I would like to come. Could you tell me something about them? They're part of a barn, aren't they?
Yes, they're on a farm, surrounded by countryside, and it's very peaceful. We've converted the barn into 2 cottages, which are both the same, and everything's on the ground floor. The living room is quite big, with comfortable armchairs and a sofa, dining table, TV, and Wi-Fi.
Okay.
The kitchen is part of the living room. It's very well equipped, including an electric cooker, fridge freezer, and microwave.
And is there a dishwasher?
I'm afraid not, as there isn't quite enough space for one.
Well, I'm sure we can manage without one. After all, it's only for a week.
And there's a double bedroom and a twin, both with plenty of storage space.
What about the bathroom? Does it have a shower?
Yes, a walk-in shower and a bath.
Excellent.
Let me tell you about the outside area. From the living room, there are glass doors leading out onto the patio, which is great for eating outdoors when the weather's fine. It has a table with a sunshade and 4 chairs, and catches a lot of sun.
Is there a garden as well?
Yes, each cottage has its own private garden. It's very pretty, and there's enough space for children to play. There's also a pond in the garden with fish and water lilies, so of course young children need to be supervised in case they fall in. And beyond the garden there are fields and a small wood, though you can't get into them directly from the garden.
That sounds very nice.
The cottage is on a bit of a hill, and you can see a long way in one direction. We're quite close to the river, and although that's just out of sight, from the bedrooms the marina is visible. It's a very attractive view. There's a restaurant there, which is useful if you don't feel like cooking.
That's handy. We might try it.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
As for facilities, we supply towels and bedding, and there's a laundry which both cottages use. It's in a separate building and has everything you need for washing and drying clothes.
I don't suppose we'll need to use it, as we'll only be staying for a week. Is there a parking area?
Oh, yes. There's a lot of room just outside, a couple of 100 yards after you turn off the road to reach the cottages.
Well, it sounds ideal. I'd certainly like to book a cottage. Would the week beginning the 7th of May be possible?
Oh, that's the bank holiday weekend, isn't it? I'll just check. Oh, I'm afraid both cottages are booked for that week. Would the 14th be any good for you? One of them is available then.
Let me think. Yes, that'd be okay. We'd need to change a couple of arrangements, but I don't think it'll be a problem. How much will it cost for a week?
Let me see. May is mid-season, so it's £372, and we ask for a deposit of £200 to secure the booking. As soon as we've received that, we'll send you confirmation. The deposit is non-returnable, so we advise people to take out insurance in case they have to cancel for any reason.
And the rest of the payment?
That's due 6 weeks before you arrive.
Okay, that's fine. Can I pay online?
Yes, I'll give you our bank details. The money should be transferred to A and J Gribben. I'd better spell out our surname for you. It's GRIBBEN.
Got that.
The sort code is...
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
You will hear the principal of a college talking to students about changes to the catering arrangements. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 16.
Right, good morning everyone. I'd like to tell you about our new food hall. As you know, the problem with the old canteen is that there's only one serving point, so people have to queue for a long time to be served. Well, the new food hall will come into operation next week. It'll have several serving points, so long queues will be a thing of the past. And the aim is to keep the food as healthy as possible. The Around the World food point, as its name suggests, will be truly international and serve food from a different culture each week. When the food hall opens, it's going to be Chinese food, followed by Mexican and then South African. The catering staff are working hard to master lots of different cuisines. I'm sure many of you will be interested in broadening your horizons and discovering what's eaten in other countries. One of the serving points is called Trad, and this will serve the best of traditional British food along with pizzas and burgers. 6 students from the catering department will be involved in preparing and cooking the food for a week at a time as part of their training. British food may not have the best reputation, but I can guarantee that you'll be surprised how delicious it can be. Another food point is called Indian Delight. This will serve meat, fish and vegetarian food from different parts of India, as well as delicious desserts. You'll find the food is much more varied than in most Indian restaurants in this country. Everyone will be able to say what they'd like to see on the menu, so this will change from time to time to include your ideas. The Specials Corner will cater mainly for people who want to lose weight or are on special diets such as vegetarian or vegan or have food allergies. The catering staff will get to know people who regularly use this serving point and will be able to help them choose suitable food and tell them what to avoid. The deli will serve a range of wrapped cold food like quiches and sandwiches, which you can take away to eat later, or at the picnic tables in the college grounds when the weather's warm enough. Although most people prefer hot food in the winter, we're sure some will find it useful to have this option in cold weather too. And finally, although some of the serving points will have salads available throughout the year, the salad bar will operate during the spring and summer terms. It'll serve a very wide range of salads using ingredients that are in season. If you think salads are boring, you're in for a surprise.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 17 to 20.
The food served in the college consistently gets excellent feedback from everyone who eats it, and we're determined to maintain its high quality. At the moment, food is available at lunchtime and again before evening classes begin. In future, the food hall won't close in the afternoon. This will be more convenient for everyone, and while prices will be kept at the same level as they are now, we're introducing electronic cards which can be topped up online. This system will replace cash and speed up the payment process. I'm pleased to say that the catering staff are looking forward to the new system, as many of them would welcome the extra work, so additional staff won't be necessary. You may be wondering what will happen to the old canteen. Our original plan was to have it demolished and construct a new classroom block on the site, but that turned out to be too expensive. Instead, there will still be tables and chairs in there, so it'll provide additional seating. You can take in food you've bought in the food hall or that you've brought from home. And on the walls, it'll have paintings done by students from the art department. There are a number of these that can be taken out of storage and put on show, so we'll all have the chance to appreciate them. Okay, so that should bring you up to date with what's happening in...
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
You will hear a student called Metin talking to his tutor about an engineering assignment. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Come in, Metin. How are you?
Fine, thanks. I wondered if I could just have a word with you about my engineering assignment.
Yes, I've got a class in half an hour, but I can give you about 10 minutes. I do need the other 20 minutes to get myself sorted out before I teach, though.
That's fine. I just wanted to discuss some ideas with you.
Okay. So, what aspect of building are you doing your assignment on?
Well, I decided in the end to choose bridge construction. I had several ideas at the start, but I didn't want to focus on anything too modern. I wanted to opt for something that's been around for a long time.
Yes, I guess people have always built bridges.
Whereas skyscrapers, for example, are great, but they're relatively recent constructions.
Okay, well, that's a good reason. What aspect of bridge construction are you going to cover?
Well, there are some amazing bridges in different places and countries, so I thought I would start with some pictures, just a page or so of bridges around the world, and then go on to write about them.
That would involve quite a range of designs. It might be better to narrow your theme down a bit. Might make it easier for you to structure your work.
Yes, I'm not very good at making choices.
You know, like a lot of students, you're trying to cover too much.
Right, I see.
Plus, you need to think about what you're being assessed on. Did I give you the outline for this?
Yes, but I don't think I have it here.
Well, last year's students will tell you that you won't do well if you only present an overview of something. It's not enough, no matter how many words you write.
I see. You mean we have to show that we can go into something in detail?
Exactly. Perhaps it would be a good idea to have a rethink when you get home. Do you have plenty of books and articles?
Yes, I've got them at my flat. My flatmate said I didn't need to bring them.
Well, it would have been helpful if you'd brought them along. Anyway, review all the literature you have first, and that will help you develop your ideas.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen carefully and answer questions 26 to 30.
So, which bridges have you read about already?
Okay, well, I've read an article on suspension bridges. You know, like the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco.
Uh-huh. What do you find particularly interesting about this type of bridge?
Well, I think a lot of people believe that they're a very modern steel-based structure, but actually there were some very old ones that were made using grass that was twisted to form a rope.
They were often used to walk between mountains, weren't they? Very scary.
Yes. Arch-shaped bridges also go back a long time. They're quite interesting too.
Well, they go back to Roman times, don't they?
Yes. And what I hadn't realised is that these ancient arch bridges were made without using cement to hold the stone together, so the builders needed some form of scaffolding to build the top part of the arch.
But that's still true today, isn't it? Despite all the modern materials we have, workmen still can't bring the two sides of an arch bridge together without having a framework around the arch while it's being built.
No, so this basic principle hasn't changed much, even though they may look different today.
What other bridges are there you could focus on?
There are beam bridges. They're about the simplest in terms of construction.
Just a horizontal surface made of wood, stone, steel, or concrete, and two supports.
Yes, parts of these bridges are often known as girders, and people sometimes refer to them as girder bridges.
Right. They're often most commonly used for trains and cars, aren't they?
Uh-huh.
And, what about complex designs?
Well, a bridge called the Cable-Stayed Bridge is just amazing to look at. It's a bit like a suspension bridge, but it only has one end or tower, and obviously a lot of cables going from this to the surrounding area.
Now, this is a modern bridge, isn't it?
It is, although interestingly, I noted that there are sketches of it that date back to the 16th century.
And yet the first cable-stayed bridges were built in the 1940s, I believe.
That's right.
Well, you obviously have a lot of knowledge already.
Yes, and I guess I could select an ancient bridge design and a modern one.
Now that would be a good idea.
Okay.
So, I don't think you need to see me again. I think you can select your material yourself this week.
I would quite like to write it out and let you see it before I submit my final draft.
Okay, you can email it to me. And remember to plan your assignment before you write it.
I will, thanks.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
You will hear part of a lecture about the behaviour of birds, called starlings. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this talk on the natural world. I'd like to start off by introducing our guest speaker, John Thompson, who'll be speaking to us about the behaviour and characteristics of birds called starlings, which are really quite astonishing. Over to you, John.
Yes, thank you. Right, so starlings are a very common type of bird. They're medium-sized, and their feathers, although multicoloured, appear dark and metallic-looking. They're found mainly in Europe, Africa and Asia, but they do exist in most parts of the world. What I want to focus on today is a particular aspect of starling behaviour called murmurations. Now, starling murmurations take place when large numbers of the birds gather together and form something that resembles a huge black cloud that swoops and swirls and spins in the sky. I'm going to describe when this happens and suggest why and how the birds do it. So, when does it happen? Well, it starts during autumn. Groups of starlings begin to gather in favoured places, and these develop into murmurations that can comprise a few hundred birds up to over 1 million. The groups increase in size as more starlings arrive and reach their maximum populations in midwinter, when migrating birds from colder climates join the main groups. Why do they do this? Well, no one is really sure, and there are several theories. But a possible reason is for protection, based on the principle of safety in numbers. However, another theory is that it is to pass on information. As the starlings gather, their daily routine is fairly constant. Early in the day, groups of starlings go out to find feeding places. They can travel up to 40 kilometres each day. But the interesting thing here is that they always return at the same time each day. The murmurations can best be seen at dusk, when the numbers are the largest, and it may be that information on what they have discovered throughout the day is passed around in the evening. So, as I said, these murmurations are astonishing to look at. The acrobatics and the displays are remarkable, but how do they do it? Again, no one is really sure, but in the last few years, a lot more progress has been made. In 2008, a team of Italian researchers conducted groundbreaking studies on the starlings of Rome. These scientists used a series of interlinked cameras to measure how individual shapes of starling groups change over time. They discovered that the birds changed positions in the group and took turns to be in front, at the sides, in the middle, and at the back, and that there were 3 basic rules. Move in the same direction as your neighbour, stay close to your neighbour, and, as starlings can reach speeds of over 70 kilometres per hour, the 3rd rule is the most critical, and that is to avoid a collision. And interestingly, the distance between neighbouring birds is much less than the distance of each bird from the one in front and the one behind. This is probably because starlings can see better to the side than straight ahead, and having a larger gap in front and behind is rather like safe motorway driving, where cars need to keep their distance from the drivers in front. But even though the birds try to follow their neighbours as closely as possible, a tiny deviation by one bird is magnified by the surrounding birds. It is this that creates the impression of a huge cloud. So, to end this bit, just a few notes on starling populations. Since the 1970s, in the UK there has been a reduction of 70% in starling populations. In fact, the numbers of starling in the UK are a fraction of what they used to be, and they are now on the critical list. For example, at Brighton Pier on the south coast of England, murmuration sizes are now around 50,000, whereas they used to be up to 500,000. However, we believe that numbers in the 18th century were also quite low, because there is little reference to starlings in literature from 200 years ago. Well, compared to other birds that were around at that time. It's thought that numbers grew rapidly throughout the Industrial Revolution, partly because the weather was milder. And starlings are able to settle in new places quite easily. In 1890, an American decided to introduce all the birds mentioned in Shakespeare's plays to America. He released 60 starlings in Central Park, New York, and the birds thrived. There are estimated to be over 2 million starlings in the USA now, and they can be found as far as the West Coast. Now, to move on to their...
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test and speaking, you got guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.